Hi, I'm Lisa Curcio, and I would love to welcome you here to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Today is Monday. It is November 13th. The year is 2023, and this is a YouTube premiere. I am so glad that you're here with me today. You're going to find me live right now in the chat, so I hope you'll log into your YouTube account and chat with us. Tonight, I'm taking a fun fold to a whole new level when I teach you how to make a holiday gift card holder, and we're going to do this in minutes. Quick and easy and quite impressive. And one of my samples has an alternative for you that I think you're going to enjoy. Now, I want to make sure you know all about that project sheet. You're going to find it linked down for you in the video description below when tonight's premiere is all over. It's going to lead you to the pictures, the cutting dimensions, and the supplies for all the projects I'm going to share with you tonight. And then finally, I want to make sure you see that beautiful name off in blue. That's Gina Curcio Holly. Gina is my daughter. She's also the sales and marketing director here at Lisa's Stamp Studio and at Avid Stamper. And she's here with me to answer your questions live in the chat. We're thrilled that you're here. All right, we're ready. Let's get started. I'm going to be using blueberry bushel cardstock for this. Now, the card base on this measures 5.5 by 10.5. Simple instructions. The first one is going to be scored at 2 inches. So I'm going to line it up against the trimmer. Now my trimmer includes both a scoring blade and a cutting blade. They navigate up and down out of the way. Love the clear track, and that's going to come into play tonight as well. You're going to be able to find this and the supplies I'm using tonight on my website under Shop. Again, 2 inches, using that straight ledge here at the top to make sure it's good and straight, and we'll score. Now the next one is at 6.25 inches. So we're gonna go ahead and open up that extendable arm, and I love that, especially if you're a scrapbooker. The 6.25 inches, I put a little white mark there for you so that you can see it on camera. I can see it well in person. I'm gonna go ahead and line it up, and all the way over here, we're gonna do one more score line. That's it. We're going to use our bone folder now, and we're going to score on that far line here to the right. I'm looking here and here to make sure they're even, and I'm going to reinforce those creases. Now this last score line is going to come up on top of itself, and then we're going to score again. Now listen, if you have that little bit of a buckle like I do, that's common because none of us scores just perfectly. Take your bone folder and just run it across your cardstock and just work it out. That bone folder does double duty. It keeps everything nice and straight so it doesn't break down the cardstock too much, and it makes sure that the card is going to close. We're going to start by working on the focal point, and then we're going to get to the inside. I'm going to do my stamping on a scrap piece of basic white cardstock, and I'm going to be using the stamp set called Trucking Along. Now, as I age, the osteoarthritis in my basal joints becomes worse and worse, and that's where this amazing stamp positioning tool has been my lifesaver, and that's what I'm going to use tonight to stamp the multiple images that create this truck. I'm pulled out the outline image of the truck here. I'm going to go ahead and open up the MISTI. I'm going to reposition this out of the way. There's scratch paper here just in case you should ever stamp off the sides, but in this case we probably don't need it since we're going to die cut. The magnet is very strong. I put a piece, or actually a couple pieces of washi tape around there to help me lift it. That helps my fingers. Leaving it here in the corner, I'm going to tack that down. I'm going to position this on the paper where I want it, and then I'm going to close the hinge, and that's going to pick up the image here. The one thing I love about this is that there are metal pieces for the hinges that are encased here to the plate. So that's going to ensure that this brand new design of the MISTI is going to last you forever. I'm going to take my Memento black ink pad. And here's another thing that I love. Do you see how flat that plate comes? And then what we're going to do is we're just going to close this on the paper and we are going to press. Now, if you're like me and you struggle with arthritis and you see areas that you miss, because it's positioned in the corner, you can just close it and stamp it again. I'm using a piece of Stampin' Chamois. When it's dirty, that indicates it's been loved over the years, and I absolutely love that we can use it over and over again. Just rinse it out. Use a non-lint cloth or a microfiber cloth just to dab off the excess water. And now we're going to change images. There is a coordinating image to the truck that fills it so that you don't have to color it if you don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line this up here, and I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer so that you can see better. I know there's a little bit of a glare from the studio lights, but we want to make sure that you're well lit. I'm going to line this up exactly where I want it. Once I'm happy with the positioning, all you have to do is close that plate lid again and then lift. Check to make sure your cardstock is in place. Now I'm going to use blueberry bushel, and I'm going to ink up that image here on the far right side. We're going to close that door and then we are going to press. I'm going to lift it and I can see here, oh, there was a little mistake there. There is something on my image. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to clean that off because you know what? This is where the stamp positioner comes in wonderfully. I know as long as my paper is here, I can go ahead and I can re-ink this and I can close this and that should take care of my problem. So I'm going to go ahead and press there. And then you can see we've got a little bit left there that we're going to get out. So let's go ahead and press a little bit more ink. Press that and there we go. Nice and filled. This is going to need some tires. So once again, I'm going to come in with my chamois and just wipe that off, dab off that excess. That's going to allow me now to lift this and change out to the tire image. And just like we did before, we are going to align this exactly where we want it. Now, once you have it positioned where you want it, I'm looking for those little hubcaps. We're going to close the door one more time. I'm going to press the hinge down and I am going to lift. Now in this case, I'm going to switch over to the black, which is my Memento ink, and I'm going to ink up those tires and those hubcaps. And then we are just going to close this. Again, the positioning is going to make this nice and simple. If it wasn't strong enough or you missed a spot, you can go back and stamp it again. Now I've just cleaned that and we're going to change this one more time because we're going to add another image. From the exact same stamp set, there is an image of a Christmas tree, and that's meant to go inside the bed of the truck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up here inside the bed, and you can see right through it, so you can kind of see exactly where it's going to need to go. Once you're happy with that, close that door one more time, and then I'm going to use my black Memento ink, and I'm going to ink up the image. Now this is the outline. There's also a solid fill for this, which I love. Again, if I've missed a spot, I am going to be able to go back and fix that. Tapping that with my chamois to get the ink off. I'm just drawing it slightly just to make it easier for my hands. And now there is a solid image. So once again, we are going to line this up over the outline. Now photopolymer tends to be a little sticky when it's brand new. So if you need to, you can go ahead and use your bone folder or something to help push it in place. But I have found that not to be a problem. Now once I have it where I like it, we're going to go ahead and close that door and we are going to lift. Here comes the Granny Apple Green ink. Leaving that plate nice and flat, we're going to tap and ink that up. And then we are going to close and we are going to fill that image. Again, you can restamp if it's not solid. Now that this is all stamped, we're going to go ahead and we're going to die cut it. I'm going to be using the Stylish Shapes dies. It's one of my favorite die sets and probably the most often used. Graduating sizes of circles, squares, and banners, and they all have that stylish stitching around them. You're going to see that it's a tight fit, and if you're like me, you're worried about it shifting while it goes through the die cutting machine. So let me introduce you to this. This is the Post-it labeling and cover-up tape. So you're just going to pull off a piece, and I like to make it even a little bit smaller yet. I'm just going to center this where I want it, and then once I'm happy with it, I'm going to put the tape across the die to hold it in place. Now I'm going to run this through the die cutting machine. I like to flip it over and make sure that it's die cut all the way through, and then I'm going to carefully remove the tape. And the reason I'm doing that is I can reuse this numerous times. You can usually get 6 or 7 uses out of it. You can leave it on the handle of your die cutting machine or right here on the cartridge. Next, I want to do the greeting, and I know I want it on the sliver of cardstock, and you might often struggle with this and getting it straight using your clear block. So I'm going to use the Misty once again. I'm going to give you a couple tips. First and foremost, you know the corner is going to be your best friend, but you're probably wondering, what if the greeting is really a tight fit and it's difficult for you to get it here? Well, they make fantastic sticky mats. Now I'm going to remove this from my mini Misty because I'm going to move over to the large Misty, and this is where the sticky mats come into play. Now I've already opened them up, and you're going to notice that there's 3 different grids in here, and they're different sizes. I put mine in a little Ziploc bag. So they have varying dimensions on them, and quite frankly for me, it really doesn't matter which one I'm using, but if you're really precise about the dimensions, that's going to matter. Let me go ahead and just remove that scratch paper because I'm probably not going to need that. When you get the sticky mats, they actually have a piece of clear acetate over the top. Don't throw this away, because if you're ever wondering if your rubber stamp was mounted correctly, if it's cling red rubber, you can stamp it on here to see, wipe it off, and then readjust your image accordingly. I'm going to lay this now inside the corner of the Misty. Now again, this is a small piece of paper, but the grid lines mean that I can actually attach my paper to here as straight as I possibly can, lay my image right on top, and then we're going to stamp. The great thing too about this grid is it's printed. You don't have to worry about this rubbing off. So I can see if this is straight, and that's going to lift it. But you see how the cardstock stayed in place? Oh, we gotta love that. Here comes the Memento black ink, and I'm going to ink up the words. And now because I'm assured of where it's at, I'm gonna place that here, and I am going to rub. You're gonna see how the cardstock doesn't move. And once again, if I need to re-ink this and restamp it, I'm guaranteed positioning. Now all we have to do is just carefully remove the cardstock from that sticky surface. Now the sticky mats are a consumable item. Over the years in use, they will become less sticky. You can actually use a temporary spray adhesive to kind of bring them back to life, but as inexpensive as they are, you can just replace them if you choose. I've got my image and I've got my greeting, and I'm going to attach these two together. So I'm going to flip this over, and this is where I'm going to use my dimensionals. I'm going to pull off a couple of those here, and I'm going to gravitate towards the center. And the great news about these shapes is that you can turn them to fit the cardstock. Again, that arthritis is a factor, so I'm going to be using that take your pick tool with that paper piercing tool attachment to help me pull off those backings. And now this is going to go right underneath here. You want to make sure that you don't have too much of a dimensional hanging off, because we don't want this to stick to the base of the card when we go to open it. Now coming back to the card base, you'll recall that we had this flap here, and I thought that it needed to be decorated. I have a piece of designer series paper here, and I decided I wanted to layer this. So let's flip this upside down, and on my wrong side, I'm going to add my Stampin' Seal Plus. Now the silicone craft sheet is perfect for your work surface because adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it, which means you're going to keep your table nice and clean. I'm going to leave that nice narrow margin all the way around. And then we're going to add some more adhesive now to the back side of this. I like to open up the pieces so that they're nice and flat for me to work with. And I like a complementary color underneath because that helps me create that narrow border that I'm looking for. And then once we're happy with that, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to tack that right in place. Now the next thing we're going to do is this is an area that you can decorate. But on this card, I decided to keep it really easy for this fun fold. Now I'm going to leave mine blank, but we're going to add some embellishments later. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the inside, and then we're going to talk about how that image is going to help close this card. Here on the inside left is where I chose to put my greeting, and I'm going to save the other side for the pocket. Now I'm going to come back to the mini Misty, and again, full size or mini, completely up to you. This is the piece of cardstock that's sized inside your project sheet for the inside. And here is my greeting. Now because this is red rubber, it has a little bit of foam, which means it's more dense. So I don't need this insert that comes with your Misty. So I'm just going to pull that out. And in this case, I know I'm not going to need the scratch paper because we've got plenty of cardstock here. Anchoring my magnet in place, it's very, very strong. This now is going to allow me to put my greeting where I want it. Again, if you are not certain that you have mounted that sticker just right, go ahead and stamp it on the scratch paper first. And that's going to allow you to manipulate this just in case. Now, I went ahead and I checked this before you joined me, so I know that it's good and straight. And I'm just going to place this on the cardstock where I want it, press and lift. And again, that black mat is gone. And this time I decided to use a little color coordination here for the words. So I'm going back to that blueberry bushel. We're going to tap and we're going to ink that up, and then we are going to close and we are going to press. And I love that it doesn't require a whole lot of effort. I wanted to show you that I got that greeting from Festive Fun. Don't be afraid to borrow from one stamp set to work with another. Stampin' Up! Does a great job with their coordination to make it easy to do so. Now I decided I wanted a little something down here in the corner. So I'm going to move that magnet up and out of the way. And there's a little package here. Now, do you see here how close it is to the bottom? I want to give you another idea. We're going to replace the foam mat that goes in the mini Misty. I'm going to use some ugly scratch paper because that's what it's for. Use it over and over again. This time, instead of placing it in the bottom, I'm going to place it up here at the top. And this time, I'm going to place my image down here in the lower right corner. This time, I can be certain that I've got my image exactly where I want it so that the negative lines are not going to show on the cardstock. Once you're happy with it, go ahead and close that door and lift. Just make sure if you have a brand new photopolymer stamp and it's sticky that you reposition your corner. I'm going to go ahead and use that blueberry bushel and we're going to ink that up. And now we're going to press. If you need to restamp, of course you can do so. But there's another image that fills some of these ribbons. Just like with the truck, I'm going to take that image and I'm going to line it up exactly where it should go. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close the door and I'm going to open. Again, make sure your cardstock is positioned exactly where you need it. Once we have the image mounted, we're going to go ahead and use that granny apple green again just to coordinate with the front of the card, and then we are going to press. I decided to layer this piece as well, so I'm going to flip that over on my silicone craft sheet, and we're going to add adhesive now to the back side. I'm going to place that here on the granny apple green and we'll create a nice border. Stampin' Up! Seasonal sale is beginning tomorrow, which is November 14th. So head over to my website, click on Shop and Specials so that you can get all the information about the amazing sale that's going to begin tomorrow. Keep in mind that products are only available while supplies last, so you're going to want to shop early. This is the inside left of the card, and I am going to place those layers right here. There's a very narrow margin here, about 1/8 of an inch all the way around, and we'll tack those in place. Now for the side with the pocket for the gift card, I decided to use designer series paper. Now I want to show you, I chose the pattern to go in a different direction. Same paper, I just thought this created a little bit more visual interest. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the card base first. So I'm going to place my adhesive around the outside edges. I want to make sure, because this is going to be the base for my pocket, that it's well adhered. Once I have that in place, I am actually going to turn this sideways because I have a vertical pattern that's going to be easier for me visually to make sure it's as even as possible to leave that small border, and we'll tack that in place. Now the pocket. Now obviously you can create your pocket at any height that you want depending on what you're placing in there. It does not have to be a gift card. It could be a check, it could be cash, it can even be a family photo. But in mine, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to make a small tick mark here near the top right to indicate where I'm going to cut. So that you can see it, I'm going to use my silver pencil. You all love this, and I do have this linked for you on my website under Shop Craft Room Favorites. I'm going to go over, I'm going to say, about 1 inch. I'm not even going to measure because that's not fun. And we're just going to bring that trimmer back in. I'm going to leave the blade here at the top this time because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from here down to here. So I'm going to lift this and I'm going to close that clear track. So there's a silver tick mark here and another one here near the bottom. I want to make sure those are going to fall within that cutting track. You would never want to start your blade here because obviously it's a very thin amount of cardstock and this would scrunch your paper. So I'm going to start at the top and slice down, and that's going to leave us this. I'm going to go ahead and use my favorite craft pencil, and I'll go ahead and erase those little silver lines so that they are not visible. This now is going to get attached to here. Now, I'm not a liquid glue fan, so if you've watched my videos before, you know why. I'm too messy and heavy-handed, and that arthritis has been a problem. I will also tell you that for a very, very long time, I have been using my precision glue applicator, and I do still love this, but I found something even better. Let me show it to you. This is the Precision Glue Press, and it's made by My Sweet Petunia, which is the same company who makes the Misty. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure that I could work the trigger because all my paint is down here, but this is amazing. Now it comes with a regular needle tip, just like the bottle, and there's also a needle inside the cap. I'm hoping you can see that. So these fit together very, very easily. This is where I leave the acrylic lid for that. The glue bottle just slips into place and it locks down inside, and any glue can go in the bottle. And I really, really do love the multi-purpose liquid glue that I sell in my online store. It's strong and it dries quickly. That's what's inside this particular bottle. The great thing I love about this is once the bottle is pushed all the way forward, when you're not using it, it stays down here near the plunger, and there is like an airtight seal between the needle tip and that stopper, so you don't have to worry about the tip drying out. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to flip this upside down. I'm going to come right across the bottom, and look how tiny I can make this. When I tell you I'm barely squeezing, I am not kidding. Just like the glue applicator, I can make sure I use that tip to dissipate the glue. I'm going to move that silicone craft sheet out of the way. And this now is going to get mirrored here near the bottom of the designer series paper and the side. You want to keep that angled tip free of glue or adhesive because that's going to become the pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press this in place. Just give it a couple seconds to dry. Now, if you're wondering about this, let's talk about it. I found I really don't have to clean off the tip because of the stopper. Do you see how it leaves any excess glue right there? And it just forms the perfect seal without blocking the needle. If it's going to be stored for a long period of time, you obviously can put the needle tip right on top of here and then go ahead and screw this in place. You'll find this linked on my website along with all the other wonderful Misty products at Shop Craft Room Favorites. We're going to come back to this in just a second. Let's talk about the closure. So we've got our trifold, and that's going to bring us here. Let's go ahead now, let's take that image, and you're going to decide where you want it. So I'm going to put mine in the center. So we're only going to want dimensionals here on that left side. So I'm going to flip that upside down. I'm going to grab my dimensionals. I'm going to place them 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to keep them fairly close. I'm going to use that Take Your Pick tool once again to remove those backings. With my fingers here as a guide, because you don't want those to fall on the card base, I'm just going to go ahead and gauge where that's going to be, and I'm going to lightly tack it in place. And I'm going to look, and there should be no dimensionals showing here. Now, because I decided to keep this simple, I thought I could use a little bit of bling, but I wanted something flat. And that's where I brought in these iridescent discs, and I love these. So they come in 4 colors. You'll see that I wrote them there for you. And I'm going to use the Granny Apple Green ones. Now, they already have glue dots on the back, which make them super duper easy to use. So I'm going to go ahead and place one here. I'm going to take another one on a staggered angle just to create a little visual interest for the eye. And let's take one more, and we're going to work all the way down here. And because they do have glue on the back already, give them a good push so they stay in place. Now when you open this up, you'll want to take your bone folder and very, very carefully open up that pocket. It's going to be really flat at first because we've glued it down. And then take your gift card and slide that right down inside. So you've got a very cute trifold. The best part is I got other samples for you that I can't wait to share. Let's go ahead and put that one off to the side and let me show you what I've got next. Now this next one uses the Rustic Crate Bundle, which is the stamp set and the coordinating dies. Lots of fun because you're going to be able to incorporate lots of seasons with this one. I also have a PDF tutorial in my library on my website under Shop that gives you more ideas on how to use this bundle if you're interested. But for this one, I used the Joy of Christmas Designer Series paper. I brought in some of that gold trim combo that comes with silver as well. Beautiful Designer Series paper to create all of this. I used the alcohol-based markers here for the poinsettias inside my crate. And then I've got some metallic sequins here. Unlike the other one, this one I did a belly band on. So let's pause. So you might be wondering, well, how does this stay closed? Now, if I was getting ready to send this in the mail, I wouldn't be too worried because it's going to be staying flat for a while. But if I'm going to present it by hand, I would recommend a tiny glue dot there, and that's going to hold that closed until they open to present it. One glue dot is going to be perfect to hold it, but not too tough to open. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to slide off the belly band. Remember, never make your belly band too tight. And that's going to leave us with this beautiful enclosure. And this time I used Versamark ink with that same image to create a little bit of a background on that pocket. So you can make this as simple or as fancy as you'd like. Now this last one is a lot different. This one uses the Gift of Giving stamp set. Now I love to color. I will tell you there's not much to color on here, which is going to be really great if you're on the fence. But this I think is going to be fantastic to use even for birthdays after Christmas. This one I used the Walk in the Forest Designer Series paper. So I did a little bit of that striped paper here at the top. You'll see that Christmas tree pattern on the bottom. I colored in my image and I just fussy cut it with scissors. It was very, very simple. I mounted it on one of the countryside corners dies to give it some stability. And this one opens this way. So we've got quite the different horizontal view on this one. So my pocket dimensions are slightly different. That will be inside your project sheet. The great thing about this is if you've got a family photo, 3x5 is going to fit very, very nicely in that pocket for Christmas if you don't want to do a gift card and, of course, cash. Here are 3 easy fun fold holiday gift card holders that you can make in minutes. Now, as always, I love to know your favorites. So do me a favor, pop down right now in the comments and let me know. Your feedback is always very important. And if you haven't heard about this, I want to make sure you know all about Stamp Studio memberships. If you love exclusive ideas that cannot be found anywhere else, I've got you covered. Every Monday, a new tutorial will come to your inbox that provides pictures, cutting dimensions, and supplies. You can see here that there are 2 levels. $5 a month guarantees an email tutorial every Monday. And of course, there's level 2. You can find all the information about Stamp Studio memberships on my website on the red menu bar titled Memberships. Head over to my website and check out that PDF tutorial library and scroll all the way to the bottom and click on subscribe. I would love to add you to my free weekly e-newsletter so we can keep you in the know and keep you inspired. Mark your calendar because next Monday, which is November 20th, Gina is going to be here and she's got a fantastic fun fold you are not going to want to miss. So make sure that you mark your calendar. Thank you all for being with me tonight and we will see you next week. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.